Okay, so we are here for the same reasons, and usually we fall into three categories. So it's either we know what our purpose is, but we've done nothing about it. We either don't know at all what it is, what it looks like, what it should be, absolutely nothing. We don't even know where to start. Or we think we kind of know and have it figured out, but we want a little bit more clarity to actually take that step. So, as I said, that I'm going to talk about the book Pink Purpose. And I must tell you that this little book surprised me. It came out of my own purpose journey. So when I was jotting down notes on the side or in my phone or everywhere that I went, it was mostly because I was just trying to figure things out. I was just trying to figure out, okay, what is going on here? I'm running my business. I'm not unhappy, but something is missing. I feel like, there's a link and I'm not sure what that link is. So when it started with me just jotting down a couple of notes here and there and just almost working out my own path to say, I want to go on a journey of reinvention. And now I'm going to stop there to tell you that reinvention is not about changing who you are. It's changing the things you do so that you can become who you are meant to be. So that can look like a number of things. But I thought to myself, okay, I want to go through this journey of reinvention. And I can remember sitting with a friend and having coffee. And I said to her, friend, there's something missing. And she asked me, what is missing? And I said, I don't know, but something's got to give here. And she said, okay, take the time to figure what it is that you feel is missing in your life. And I thought about it. And because I'm a woman of faith, prayer is the first thing that I go to. But in that season, I really thought, okay, this is it. Okay, no, that's actually not it. And I had to go through a number of things to actually get to that place to understand, what does purpose actually mean? I've heard all the cute slogans about you were born for a purpose and you were made for purpose and created for purpose. I heard all of these things, but what did it really mean to me? And what did it look like in my life? Because here's the thing, we hear it many times, and tonight you're going to hear things you've heard before. We've heard how we are unique. We've heard how we are different. We've made unique. We've got something special inside of us. But sometimes we don't know what that special ingredient really is. So go back a few years, I was feeling overwhelmed and underwhelmed at the same time. I thought, I'm running this business that I really believe in. I'm doing all the things. I'm involved in my community. I'm busy at home, but I'm feeling so ragged. I'm exhausted. So something must be wrong here. And while thinking about a couple of things, it was a hard season, I've got to admit. It was a hard season because for the very first time, I almost had to unlearn and relearn. I had to strip down all these preconceived ideas I had of where I was headed, what I was going to do, and how I was going to do it. Because I'm going to admit, I am a person, a woman who likes to be in control. And I know that if I asked you to raise your hand, some of you would know what I'm talking about. So I don't just want to know that that's the end goal. I want to know, how am I getting there? When am I getting there? What's the mode of transport? I want to know all the things before I even take the step. And for the first time, I didn't know what those steps were. So I had to decide, am I going to go into a season of discovery, or am I just going to let it go and stick to what I already know? So Pink Purpose is a product of that journey. It's a very, Lenore will tell you, it's a very quick read, and I did that intentionally because I'm an avid reader, and I've known the whole process of reading and reading and reading and still trying to understand, okay, so when do I get to the part where I actually do something with what I'm reading? So the way I decided to structure it is I tell you a little bit about me from my childhood, but at the end of the chapter, I want you to do the work that's necessary for you. So that's how the book is phased. And the reason why, a lot of people ask me, okay, what's up with the name? Pink Purpose, and it's pink. And that is because the color pink is a sign of hope. And that's how I wanted to package it. That this book, when you have it in your hand, it is your sign of hope. That everything's going to be okay, doesn't matter what stage of life you're in. And also, it speaks to fulfillment of something that is on its way. And then obviously purpose, we know it's your reason for being. So the name, the color, it was all intentional. Confident femininity speaks to our confidence as women. I once heard that femininity speaks to tender power. And I thought that is so appropriate, because even in our tenderness, we can be so powerful. And so I wanted it to speak to all those different dynamics of being a woman. And that's why it's pink, and that's why it's called what it's called. And the funny thing is, when I was younger, I grew up with boys. I have 4 brothers. And pink was nowhere to be seen. The things I wore, nothing. It was just like, no, not pink, because either the boys would tease me or something came out of it. And now when I started to really understand what a powerful color it is, what a powerful word it is, I even have pink on my lips tonight for that same purpose. So this book is really a guide. It's a manual. It's not a one and done, like I'm going to read through it and put it on my shelf and that's it. It's what I would hope is that whoever reads it would have it on the shelf, and every now and then we'll take it down again and go through the exercises when you need that refreshing, when you need that reminder. And the first chapter that I've started with in this book speaks to identity. Now, you might say, okay, but identity is obvious. It's who I am. And the not so funny thing is that so many women actually don't know where their identity lies. They actually don't know who they really are. They've either gone through so many things in their lives that they've put on this facade of who they want everybody else to see them as. And that has meant that they've gotten stuck in so many places because they're not really sure now anymore. Is this who I really am? Or am I still just playing a role like my other roles that I play and that I have in my life? So I started with identity, which is who are you? So the subtitle says, this is who I am. And I tell a story of something that happened when I was younger and how that set the pace for who I wanted to portray myself as. And the second chapter is called Gifts and Talents, and I call them your superpowers. So I ask, what are your superpowers? And then the third chapter is on passion, and that is what sets your heart on fire. So in the book as well, I've got some reflection questions, which I call purpose questions. And we're going to do a few of those tonight as well. And we're going to give you an opportunity. I know Lenore said come with your notebook and pen to just jot down a few things as we go through this together. So we start off with, what is purpose? Purpose is simply the reason for which something is done, created, or exists. So it's your reason for being, which is, why am I actually here? What am I actually fulfilling in the days of my life? And I don't mean to reference the old soapy, but what exactly is it that I am here to do? So chapter 1 on identity is because I believe that purpose journey starts with me. It starts with the internal. It starts with, who am I really? Not who people have labeled me to be, not who people think I am, but who am I really? And it's about knowing at your core that I have been created to do this specific thing. And why I've been created to do this is because I'm meant to have an impact on the world. And unless I know who I am and what is the thing I'm supposed to be, then I can't make that impact on the world, because I'm not going to be able to fully live out what it is that I'm supposed to do. And that is honestly an uncomfortable place to be, because you've got to face the things that have become limitations or obstacles in your life. And that can go way back. I mean, I wrote a story in there about when I was in primary school that only now, all these years later, I understand how it basically was the foundation of how I lived my years. So because of that incident, I'm not going to spoil it for those who decide to get the book, but because of that incident, I wanted to be known as tough as nails and in control, and nobody's going to mess with me. So that's basically the image that I built up for myself, that I was not going to show anyone a sign of weakness, and that I'm not going to let anyone walk all over me. And this road that I traveled was one of a lot of resistance. So I am an encourager. It was something that I've always had. And even though I used to encourage people those days, it wasn't in the way I do it now. So my encouraging back then looked more like, I'm going to be blunt and I'm going to say, put on your big girl pants and deal with it. I can remember being a teen and basically telling my friends that, like, there's no time for all of that. You've got to just learn to deal with it. And through my journey of reinvention, I realized there are some things that are part of my identity, but they are so skewed now. They're almost turned on its head because I'm not using them and I'm not portraying my identity the way it's meant to be. I've built up this whole picture of how I want the world to see me, control and in charge and get things done. And it doesn't matter how you feel about what I'm going to say, as long as I say what I've meant to say. And so I had to have a hard look. I had to, sit down and think, okay, some of the things are not very pretty. Like, you've got to deal with those things that don't look so good, and not for others, but for yourself, because you need to figure out who it is that you really are. And they were not easy to face, but I did it anyway. And what I discovered is that there's so many things that I buried for so long that I didn't want to face up to, that could actually be of benefit to the work that I do, to the people that I interact with. But because I wanted to always look like I had it all together, I basically smothered my identity. And I set a high standard for myself that was so high that when other people didn't match up with that standard, I blamed them, because I was like, you should know better, you should do better, you should. And that caused me to be very harsh in my approach. So I had to face up to many, many different things. And that is the journey of purpose, because I've got to come and face reality. I've got to look in the mirror and say, okay, girl, these are the things that you are pretending to be, and we got to sort that out. These are the things that have hurt you in the past. You've got to sort that out, because until you do that, you're not going to be able to move forward. So the question is, who am I? Do I know who I am? And do I actually like who I am? And so I'm going to go now to our first purpose action for you to write down. And that is, and you can write this down for yourself. So if you've got your notebook next to you, you're going to write this for you, because this is for you. You're going to write down 3 things that you love about yourself. Now, for some of you, it may seem like, oh, I've got this covered, easy, no problem. And for others, it might be a little bit more difficult to acknowledge that, you know what, these are the 3 things I actually love about myself. But this is for you, unless you want to share it, which we may ask you to do later. But for now, just write down those 3 things that I love this about myself, and 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to give you like a minute just to do that. So there we go. So for our identity question, 3 things you love about yourself. I'm not going to write mine down because I did the exercise. So I've already written mine down. Just going to give you like a minute just to do that. Okay. You'll remember I said in the beginning that if there's anything that you don't get to finish, you can always just do it later in your own time. It's just to get your mind working and just to awaken something in you. Okay, so I said a minute, I'm going to stick to the minute. So we're going to move on to chapter 2, which is your gifts and talents, or as I call them, your superpowers. So what are these superpowers in actual fact, and why are they called superpowers? So your superpowers are the things that are a part of your DNA, things that no one had to teach you because they came naturally to you. These are also the things that are unique to you. So you might be thinking, okay, if my superpower is singing, how is that unique to me? And it's not that the singing in itself is unique, but it's the way you use that gift or talent of singing. I'll make an example. When I was younger, I did use my voice to sing. We did that a lot. My brothers and I thought we were this group of singers. And because we come from a musical family, that is how I used my voice. And as I got older, I realized that actually my voice was used to be an encourager and to be a cheerleader, which means it's more for the talking as opposed to the singing. So that doesn't mean I don't sing anymore. I just do it just for the sake of, having fun or entertaining myself or whatever the case may be. But I had to understand that actually my voice is my superpower, because I'm now using that voice to speak, to coach, and now I'm using it by taking my words and putting them on paper. So that is in effect what your superpower is. And sometimes you are gifted to do something very specific, and sometimes you don't accept that specific thing. For myself, it was the speaking. With everything in me, I went kicking and screaming because I was like, this is not what I want to do. But if I had to look back of when I was growing up, when I was in school, my voice was always very prominent. I always spoke up for others. I always liked poetry. I liked doing orals at school. And I had to realize that this was a gift because no one taught me. No one sat me down and said, okay, this is how you should use your voice. It's something that came naturally to me. So that is what our superpower is. And sometimes we ignore that superpower. We sometimes smother it and say, I'm going to choose this instead. And then we bury it and we say, it's not for now. I'm going to do something else in the meantime and focus on this thing. And I want to encourage you to accept those things that are uniquely you and that are part of your DNA. And it can look like many different things to many different people, but I found that a lot of times we lock these things away because they're so attached also to our dreams. We tend to lock them away and we sometimes dread using them. No, I'm not going to do those things. I have a fear of speaking. And then we'll find that we'll put all these excuses in place for us not to do it. But on the other hand, you'll find that many people are calling you to do that specific thing. So you'll get people always asking you to sing a song or asking you to give, to say the goodbye message when someone's retiring or whatever the case may be. And then you always wonder, why do they always ask me? It's because that gift or that talent is unique to who you are. And it's actually what you're supposed to be using to be able to serve others in whatever capacity that looks like. So with myself is what changed is that I started to say yes. And it was a very scary step because I actually didn't know what that's going to look like. For the longest time, I had said no to speaking engagements. I said no to so many things. And I finally said, okay, I'm going to give this thing a try. And the moment you embrace those gifts, it's amazing how you see, okay, I'm getting more invitations. What's going on here? I'm getting asked more and more to do the specific thing that is in line with my gift. And in the chapter that I've written in the book on mindset, I speak about how important it is to channel your thoughts also in the right direction. Because once you do that, then you are more inclined to operate in your gift or in your talent. And this also means that sometimes when we've waited too long to do something specific, we need things that are going to revive this gift again. So that can look like taking up a course or getting someone to coach you through something or getting community just like this as well, being in community that's going to enable you to reactivate and reawaken that gift that you've spent so much time just running away from and doubting. And so it's time for a purpose action again. Lenore will put it up on the screen here. And those questions are, what do you actually enjoy doing the most? What gift have you doubted, have you dismissed, or you've denied? And what have you always wanted to do, but have been afraid to attempt? So what is that thing that you always run away from or say, no, now's not the time. One day when I'm more educated, when I've done enough things, then I will do this thing. So if you could write those down, your responses to these purpose actions. These are a little bit more, so I'm going to give like 2 minutes, and I don't want to talk while you're doing it because I want to give you a little bit of time to think. So I'm going to give 2 minutes just to answer these questions. Okay, we're going to move on to chapter 3, which is about your passion. So what sets your heart on fire? And in talking of this chapter, I decided that I'm going to just read to you a paragraph or two from the book. It's just, it says it better than I could say it now live, although it is my words. But so acknowledging your dreams can feel scary. It's so much better to stay in the comfort zone, to be practical, to not take the risk. So you keep the dream to yourself, you tuck it away, forgotten and unspoken. But have you actually thought of what would happen if you dared to dream? What would happen if you just decided to go for it? As you give yourself permission to dream again, to pick up the desires that have laid dormant in the corners of your heart, there are 2 things I want to encourage you to do. Number 1 is to speak up, and number 2 is to put it on paper. How many times have you heard someone say, follow your passion and you'll never work another day in your life? Or follow your passion and the money will come? The idea behind this saying is that as long as you follow your passion, you are bound to be successful at it. This is not true. Passion is about the things that excite you. It energizes you in such a way that you don't mind working on it day and night because it fuels something inside of you. Passion makes you wake up very early in the morning and go to bed late because you love it. It's your thing. So I thought I'd read that so we could understand what it is to actually have a passion. And if you read the book, everything is interlinked. So it's almost going from one stage to the next stage to this next stage and putting it all together to come to a place of, okay, this is my purpose. And I think passion is sometimes a thing we get confused with actually what my purpose is, which it isn't. So we can sometimes get the 2 intertwined to say, I'm passionate about this thing, so it must mean that this is my purpose. And the truth is, sometimes when you acknowledge what your purpose really is, you might not necessarily be passionate about it. I'll give you an example. Years ago, I used to say that because I have better relationship with males, because I grew up with males and male cousins and all of that, I'm not really sure if I'd be able to work with women. Because I'm not really sure if my way of doing things, I told you I was very blunt and all of those things. And that's not to say that women are not straightforward. It's just, it was my thinking, my incorrect thinking. And I started to realize, but no, I'm passionate about women and I'm passionate about seeing them thrive. So how do I take what I'm passionate about and how do I marry it with what my purpose is? How do I bring those two together so that it all flows and then I'm able to do the work that I need to do? And I did that knowing that, okay, I might have thought my passion and my purpose are two separate things, but because I've now realized that they can actually work in conjunction with one another, that can do amazing things. So my passion for women means that now I can serve women in the work that I do as a life coach and as having a personal development business. My passion for using my voice means that I can now speak and I can write. And the thing is, sometimes we take our passions very lightly. I told you I'm an avid reader, but I also used to write from the time I was very little. So I'd write little poems and little songs and things like that. But I never realized that that was actually not just a gift, but I was actually passionate about it. I enjoyed doing it. And going through this journey of reinvention, I had to say, how do I actually take what I'm gifted at, what I'm passionate about, and use it for a purpose? Because purpose is for others. So how am I going to influence and impact my world while using my gifts, my passion, and discovering my purpose? And the thing is that many times we use the language that I need to find my purpose. So we think it's this big event that I've got to go and scurry around and look and see where is it and why is it hiding from me? And maybe it's going to hit me over the head and say, here I am, you found me now, let's do this. And the thing is, that's actually not how it is, because your purpose is already inside of you. It's already there. It's for you to awaken to it, to acknowledge it and allow it to be activated within you and in the things that you need to do and in how you influence and impact your world. So our passions fall into that. I'm so excited about this thing category. I'm going to spend hours doing this. Oh, shucks, look at the time and I forgot I need to eat as well, because I'm so focused and I'm so in my zone of genius when I'm passionate about what I'm doing. And then on the other hand, is this, if I say I'm passionate about singing, for an example, am I actually purposed to do it? So are there people calling me and inviting me to come and sing? So if they're not, that would just mean, besides now the whole, I don't market myself, whatever, that just means that that passion is actually meant for me. But do people call me and invite me to speak? Yes, they do. So my passion and my purpose are now walking in alignment together. They are on the same path and they're not separate silos that are actually fighting against each other because I'm passionate about this thing, but I can't use it for a purpose. Okay, so your passion will lead you in the direction of your dream. Yes, that's right. The trick is finding out how is what I'm passionate about going to work in line with my business, or if I do community work, how is that all going to work together? And our two purpose questions, I speak about what is the dream you have in your heart? So when you were a child, you spend a lot of time dreaming. You've even heard some adults would say to a kid, are you daydreaming again? Because the mind would just go and see things. And when you ask a child, like, what is your dream? What would you like to do one day? They're very quick to respond. And everything that they respond with is quite bold. I mean, they'll say an astronaut, or I want to be Beyonce, or I want to be on this on a soccer team, but they're very bold. And as we go through life, our dreams get a bit less bold because we think more, it's not really practical. Why am I thinking about this thing? So I'm going to tone it down a little bit. But tonight, I want you to rediscover that dream that is in your heart. So the question is, what is the dream you have in your heart? And what are you passionate about? What brings you joy? what is that thing that if I woke you up at midnight tonight and said, Andrea, what are you passionate about, that you'll immediately be, oh, this is the thing I'm passionate about, and you quickly tell me all about it because it brings you so much joy. So if you could write down the dream that's in your heart and what you're passionate about that brings you joy. And remember, this is for you. So no one else is looking over your shoulder and saying, remember we said the inner critic, no place for her here. It's not going to happen now, maybe in 10 years. It doesn't matter. We're not talking time frame here. We're talking about what is inside of you and what would you like to see happen. So I'm going to give you a minute to just get an idea of what it is that you are passionate about and what is the dream. Okay, so those are the first 3 chapters of Pink Purpose: identity, gifts and talents, and passion. So that is the starting point. That is the starting point to walking the road. And then I delve more into things like mindset, into living a purpose-driven life, influencing and impacting, having purposeful relationships, and then also personal development. So how does it all come together in the end? And having purpose in entrepreneurship. And how does all of that come together? So the 3 chapters I shared with you is just the beginning. It's just to give you a taste for the work that you can always do once we're offline, and give you an idea of a place to start. Because I know with myself, that was one of the things that I had to find out, like, how do I actually start? Because I can grab a number of things. I've read the books. I know what the books say, but where do I actually start? How do I put pen to paper and actually walk this pathway so that I know I come out on the other side, knowing that, okay, I'm walking in purpose. And I must say, the journey's not done yet. It's far from over, because I'm also still on the pathway. So it's not, as I said, it's not one and done. And purpose is always in the doing. So as long as I continue to do, I'm going to continue to discover more and more. All the layers will begin to open up. So that was just a bit of insight into Pink Purpose and what that's about. That is the end of us talking about the book. So I think, Lenore, if it's okay with you, we can go into the question time if there are any questions or anything specific you would like to know from me, and I can answer that as best as I can.
Perfect. Thanks, Renee. So maybe I can kick it off. You know, as you were speaking about the last section about passion, when you mentioned that it's passionate and the particular element is something that people are drawn to you about, obviously, right? So that's something that you've mentioned. But obviously, if you're not going to put yourself out there in the first place, people are not going to know that, oh, yes, actually, you know, when it comes to podcasting, I'm just going to name drop Inga's name there. It started a podcast. That's something that I can speak to Inga about, and clearly she's passionate about that. So what would you suggest that sort of just that first step to get yourself out there, and as you said, for you it was speaking as an example. Just taking that first step, what goes through your mind, and yeah, what do you need to let go of sort of to put yourself out there? Because I think that's the most difficult part. From there it becomes a little bit easier. You're still probably going to critique yourself, but I think getting over that first hurdle is probably the most important one.
Okay, so in Pink Purpose, I talk about purpose killers, and I refer to them as the destiny destroyers. And sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of the time, fear is one of those things. So I had to decide, am I going to let the fear of not wanting to step out stop me from actually doing this thing? Am I going to find all the excuses why I shouldn't? Or am I going to reframe that and find all the reasons why I should? And so taking that first step is the bold step, and it's the scary step, it's the shaky step. And I always say, I'll do it with my knees knocking, with my hands shaking, and with my voice trembling, but the step I will take, because I don't know yet what is on the other side. So the first thing I had to do was, I'm going to decide that I want to venture into speaking, like officially. And the funny thing is when I shared it with my family, my parents said it's about time. And I thought, what, that's not the response I want. I want you to tell me I can do it, and that's a, go for it. And I realized, you know what, it's actually not their job to keep me motivated to do this thing. I need to be the one to decide and take the step. So I'm sure you've heard the saying that feel the fear and do it anyway, or do it scared. And sometimes it is scary, not sometimes, a lot of the times, because I don't know what's on the other side of the curtain. So deciding to do it and then saying, what is my first step? So for me, one of my first steps was joining a community. So I went to visit Toastmasters, for example. A simple example, because I wanted to see the landscape and what is it that they actually do there. But also I'm gonna meet people who are speakers, so they're in the same arena. So that is the place where I can get some input and surround myself with that type of community, because I don't think we have fully grasped the power of community, and how beneficial it is to be in a certain platform, because it also makes you bolder, it makes you stronger.